controlled airplane, a trainer. It's called the Bixler. And what I'm going to show you in this video is how to assemble this from a kit form. Now you can buy this pretty much already made, but if you're going to use this in an educational setting, I would recommend a kit form, and following the video that you see, having the students over the course of a semester actually get involved in a great deal of aeronautics with this particular plane. And of course, some people who would just rather build the plane may find, oh, I'll just save some money and build a kit. Well, you may change your mind and decide that the RTF, ready to fly version, is the one that you want. So enjoy the video, and hopefully you'll learn some interesting techniques that you wouldn't have otherwise thought about. Here is the kit build of the Bixler. Here you see the box that all comes in. And here we have wings, pieces of wings. Here we have the fuselage. And the components that I purchased that we'll look at. Oh yeah, horizontal stabilizer here, you see that? And the rudder, there we go. And that's it. Wing spar, instruction book, and then the goodies that you need to get this whole thing working. Here you see the package, which contains a propeller, the engine mount block here, things called horns, control horns, clevis pins, connectors, and this metallic rod is the push rod. So that's what you get with the kit, plus everything I just showed you. And then you scratch your head and say, well, what else do I need? Well, you're going to need a motor. And which motor? Good question. I looked in the various forums and sort of got the impression that standard type motor, 200 or 2,200 kV would work. With the other thing you need, the ESC 30 amp would work nicely with this. And you're going to need 4 servos. And a different prop, a little bit bigger. This is a 6x4. The E, by the way, stands for electric. And what I'm opting to do is, instead of using the standard motor mount, I'm going with another that is made by Small Parts, CNC, and it's an Easy Star base outrunner motor mount. This will go into the plane. This will attach to that motor mount, which is attached to this motor. And if you look at that, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of holes up and down, left, right side at various locations, which allow you to raise or lower the motor, so you can actually change the diameter of the propeller. So all this stuff, this looks like a lot of stuff. So we'll sort through it one step at a time. Here's the fuselage as it comes. You take the canopy off. It's attached with magnets. You can see them here. And magnetic material here, so engage. But when you get this, oh look, it comes in pieces, 2 halves. So you have to glue that together. And 2 of the servos, one will go on this side right here. And if you look at the cutout, it's just going to push in there. The motor mount goes up here. The wiring for it comes down here into eventually the cockpit area. So the first thing is to get this glued. Oh yeah, the other thing you want to notice is right along here, external to the fuselage is a control rod which is going to attach to the servo. And this particular one looks like it's going to go to the rudder eventually. And notice they do include the Z-bend for you, so you don't have to deal with that. And here we have the other side. Now, one of the things you'll notice, there are 4 washers in here glued in, and most people who use Bixlers suggest that these be removed and using a larger battery to accommodate the CG. So I'll be removing those. And on the other side we have the control rod with the Z-bend put in for us that will control the elevators. What's going to happen now is I'm going to try to get these washers out of there using the hot water method. So I heated up some water in the microwave. Now I'm going to get that out here in a moment and put it in there and see what happens. Okay, got some hot water here. It's hot. Let's pour it in there. Just leave it a few seconds here and see if that loosens up. That's what everyone says should happen. And let's see. Yeah, it's getting loose. There we go. Well, that's not bad at all. Look at that. Just get that water out of there. And done. Well, success. One of the things that you'll be doing when you assemble a kit is some soldering, because you're going to have to get the electrical power from the battery to the ESC to the motor. So you will learn, or hopefully have, soldering skills. So looking at one half of the fuselage, because it's still not connected, this is where this tube actually ends up being glued in. And so the cables are going to come up this route through this channel down into the cockpit area. So at this time, the washers are now out, and that's pretty much how the cables are going to go through that channel. And what I'm going to do is plop down one of the servos in its position, because we're getting ready to glue the 2 halves together. You can see we have an assortment of control horns, and we'll get one that's going to be appropriate for this application. I'll just dump them out here. Looks like this one is going to do the job. And we'll put that on here. Let's see, it should fit something like that. Now notice it's going to position itself so it's external. I'll just plop everything in there. And ta-da, there it is. Now the push rod is going to find its way in there, and of course there's a Z-bend, so we're going to have to manipulate it to get that in properly. But typically what happens is you assemble this first, then put the horn back on the servo. So at some point that'll be done, and of course don't forget to put the screw back in there. Hold it all down, and we also have to make sure this is in the neutral or centered position. So what I'll do is I'm going to check this out with a servo tester and make sure that it's centered. Of course, one of the things we have to consider is the placement of that servo arm. If we leave it like this at that dead center position, that's fine, except when it goes into the fuselage, this has to be coming out. So this will then be lifted and turned. It'll come out this way, like that. And then that'll capture the control rod and back and forth that way. So this is curious. I have to see what that's going to look like. Okay, so then the deal is you just slide that in from the cockpit pretty tight. Get it in there. So this is like good luck if you ever have to do it. But there it is. And it works fine. Hook it up to the tester. And you'll see that this thing is jumped into its position. There we go. And just make sure everything's in there, it clears, and it's perfect. And let it cycle. So that's going to be just fine. Okay, the second servo is in. I'm going to use some extreme packing tape, and I'm going to apply a little bit of tape right there, and that'll keep it stationary. So there you go. Do that to the other side, and now again, when we get this together, I want to make sure all the cables run into the fuselage area, because the receiver is going to be in here someplace. So there you go. What I'm doing is adding some tape here just to keep these cables in the channel. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the cement all along here, thusly. Okay, and then on the other half, I'm going to use the water spray as the activator. And then once those two pieces are together, I'm going to tape the seams, and hopefully that's going to keep what Gorilla Glue likes to do is foam up. So we'll see how this works. Here's my little spray bottle. That's that. I'll take this, and we'll get a bead of glue down. Like that. Uh-oh, looks like I just glued a wire in place. That's not going to be good. Alrighty, put it there. Let's see if I can do something about that. Get that out of there. Okay. And there we go. Should be just fine. There's a little hole there. We'll get some stuff in there. Alright, now and we'll squash that together, put some tape on it, and we'll be good to go. Okay, the upper portion of the fuselage is being glued. You can see the blue tape that hopefully will reduce the effect of the foaming, and there are rubber bands holding the pieces together. And there's the all-important motor mount location. So everything is looking good. I'll let that set up, and we'll take a look at this in a while and glue the rest of it. This is setting up nicely, and also the cables can move through that channel, so that's going to be important. I'll be able to shorten them up. So everything's looking good, and so far so good. It's getting nice and solid, and in a while I'll take care of the rest of the frame, the fuselage, and glue the rest of it together. So looking good. Okay, while I'm waiting for everything to dry up here, I put the ESC in. Of course, I had to solder connectors, and the receiver is there. It's just sitting there now, but it'll be velcroed to the side of the inside of the fuselage. What I'm going to do is peel off this tape and see if it took care of that foaming. Oh yeah, the foam goes on the tape. Pretty cool. And that's a very nice finish. Alright, next time is the assembly of the rest of this thing. The next step here, and you see that moves apart. This is nicely done. So we're just going to insert glue in here and seal it up. And that's what we'll do next. So I'm going to finish up gluing the fuselage. Okay, the rest of the fuselage has been glued, and now it's just a matter of letting it set up, and then we'll deal with the tail feathers. Tail feathers are now glued in, and that's pretty much what you've seen in the build videos on the others. This is pretty much where it picks up on an RFT or RTF or the ARF. But so I didn't want to spend any time on that, because you can find that easily on one of the other builds. I also mounted the motor, as you can see, and it's very nicely sitting in the proper thrust angle. It's a little bit aft from what the original motor would be, so it would affect the CG a bit, but not by much. And also put the propeller on. Now the reason I did this at this point, and that the wing's still on, I'm going to run a test on the electronics to make sure everything's spinning the right way and moving the right way. Because in order to do that, I have to program the radio transmitter. And here's the servo once again. You know the drill. The servo is going to go in here. Now, of course, when this pops in, it is going to have to control the control horn. So now the question is, how does that go in? Well, we look for these little regions here, and well, let's see. It will go that way? Probably not. Not an awful lot of room there. Looks like it's probably going to go in this way, or something to that effect. There we go. And once this is established in terms of a position, that's going to be pretty close right there. It's going to line up with the control horn. And remember the original bag that came with things? Well, in here are the control horns, as well as the push rods. And there's some really tiny pieces here. I've got to be very careful not to lose anything. But here we have the push rod there, and way in the bottom are these really tiny little connectors, and you'll see those as we get closer to that step in the assembly. But that's about all that's useful here. And then the prop, which was the original prop for whatever motor that this thing came with when it was either, I guess, a ready-to-fly version. Is one of the control horns. Okay, so it looks like. and that's going to go into one of these positions. And here's a itty bitty teeny tiny easy connect that will take one end of the push rod, and we can make adjustments very easily without cutting the actual push rod. You'll notice the servo's control horn there's a very tight fit in there, and but it works just fine. Watch this. Now you might want to take a little bit of foam out of there. Now that's supposed to be centered. No, it's not centered. There we go. There's center. That's how it would work when it's functioning. Okay. So it's a little tight in there, but doesn't seem to mind. Follow the cable for the servo. Oh, we discover it's not long enough, and we're going to have to add an extension for both sides. But then what else is necessary is called a Y adapter, and that then connects both servos to one of the channels in such a way when the ailerons are used, they go opposite direction. I'm going to have to put an extension on the servo lead, and so that everything fits just right, I'm going to be cutting out a portion of this right in here, like this. I'll do that, and then slice along here, and we'll take that out. Here's the Y adapter that's necessary to connect the ailerons, and so one side will act as an extension for this wing and this servo, and then this is the connector for the other wing, and this plug goes into the receiver. Okay, at this time I'm going to apply the control horns, and if you notice, the horn has two pins and a slot. It matches right here, and what's going to happen is that gets pushed in. Now when you use control horns, you don't have to worry about how to position them here because they'll be taken care of for you in terms of that slot. But notice that the holes of the control horn should go over the movable portion, in this case of the aileron. So that's the proper position. So what I'll do now is get ready to glue this in. Just give it a little moisture, and then take my Gorilla Glue and just put some on there, like that. Make sure it's all in the right direction, and just line it up. Push it down into the slot, like that, and just let it dry. So I'm going to do that to the other surfaces, other control surfaces that require a control horn. That's the technique, and when that dries up, I'll put on the push rod, show you how that's done. So if you take an X-Acto knife, put the blade in there and twist it, you can remelt the hole just enough. And the control horn should, the Z-bend fits in there very nicely, as you see. And there you have it. Now, of course, the next step is to attach the clevis control to that, and we'll do that next. Pay particular attention to the rudder's control horn. You'll notice it's actually on an angle, but the rule still applies. The holes should line up with the portion of the rudder, the hinge portion. So just make sure you put it in the right direction. Now what I like to do once I attach that is to put a keeper, something that will hold that clevis pin closed. So I use tubing and cut a small amount like that, and that will be used as a keeper. I'll show you how I'm going to assemble that in a second. Now to set this up, just screw that down until you get the distance you're happy with. Match everything up, and if you use the outer holes you get lesser swing, so I'm going to use the center just to line this up. And just snap that shut, and then use the keeper over that. Everything's in place. Here we have the arrangement of push rod, clevis, and control horn, servo, the servo wires, and the connector for the extension. And I put a little dab of hot cement on there. This is the SPA, which will go in this way. And I'm still agonizing over whether or not I should glue that in and or glue the wing in as well, in case I have to get in there. But what I'll probably do is glue at the ends, glue the spar in all the entire length, and then tape this, and that will allow me then, if I have to have any access, to do very little damage to get to that channel. So this is what's happening with the wings. Getting ready to put the wings on. You can see the spar that's attached to the wing, and what I'm going to do is put the other wing on now. And I went ahead and I actually glued a little bit, as I thought I might, on the ends right around here, and taped it down, and I should be able to get in there if I need to without too much damage. So what is going to happen now is the wing will snap in place, and that'll be the next step. Wings are on. I'm going to put the receivers all connected up. We'll get that firmly attached to inside the fuselage, and here's the antenna for the receiver. We'll get that set, and it's coming together nicely now. In a minute we'll check, make sure all the electronics are working again as they should be. These are very small and sensible connectors, easy connectors, and these little guys are going to go on the control horn. You see a little hole in there? That's where the push rod is going to go through, and that little screw goes down and engages the push rod, and this little nut attaches that to the control horn. So let's take a look at this. It's also very easy to adjust. So I'm going to put one on and show you what that looks like. What I'm going to do is put the quick connector on the push rod first. It's threading a needle. There we go. You get the picture. And pretty much bring it into the position I'm interested in. That's attached. And then that nut right here is going to go on there. I'm probably going to enlarge that hole a little bit to get that thing down, but that's how this works, and it's attached very nicely, easy to adjust. One of the advantages of using the kit or the AFT, the ARF, is that you get to choose your own radios. And I settled on a inexpensive 6-channel 2.4 gigahertz transmitter and receiver combination. And this particular one is the Model FS-CT6B. It's computer programmable, and you can program this thing to do all sorts of interesting mixing, etc. But it was rather inexpensive, less than $35. And the transmitter is here. The receiver, of course, in the radio, 6-channel receiver. And I can use this with a couple of my planes. So this wasn't a bad deal. And in a moment, I'll actually check the orientation of the servos to make sure everything is pushing the right way. Okay, just checking. It looks like the ailerons are backwards. Okay, everything's working except for the ailerons, so we're going to check that out and get it going. Well, it's completed. I still haven't decided on how I'm going to handle the wings, if I'm going to glue them in or use a Velcro attach system or probably rubber bands. But well, I decided on the wing attachment. Instead of gluing it, I'm going to do what some of the people who have these planes recommend, and I'm going to use an elastic, a rubber band, on that little hook-like device right there. There's one on each wing, and the rubber band will go across from one, across the fuselage bottom, to the other on that side. And that'll keep the wings in place. If they hit something, they should jostle out of position, but not a big problem. And then the next step is to check the control surfaces with the transmitter and receiver combination that I purchased for this. Okay, here's the final test of the control surfaces. First, the elevator. Elevator up. Elevator down. Next, the ailerons. Right turn. Left turn. Next, the rudder. Right turn. Left turn. And finally, the motor. There you have it. The Bixler is now complete. And hopefully, we'll have a successful maiden flight soon. So, that's what it looks like when you put together a kit. If you looked at this video, you probably decided, maybe I'll just get an RTF.